welcome to the podcast Love to Heal. I'm Yulia, your guide on the journey of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. Hi, and welcome back to episode 4, season 2 of Love to Heal. Back in December of 2023, I traveled to Sedona, Arizona to explore the world-famous energy vortexes. There, I met my tour guide, Irina, with the company called One Tribe Tours, who is not just a guide, but also a spiritual and relationship coach. The 4 hours that I spent with her were packed with fascinating historical information about Sedona, stories of personal spiritual experiences, and vast knowledge of many healing modalities. I was so intrigued by her story. She's also an immigrant from Russia, like me. She actually first lived in New York City and then found herself in Sedona. And I was so inspired by her spiritual journey that I decided to interview her a couple weeks later. So finally, I'm sharing the interview with you. So enjoy. Today, I have a very special guest. If you listen to the first episode of season 2, you will know who I'm about to present. Her name is Irina, and she is with One Tribe Tours. Hi, Irina.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for having me here today.
Of course, yes, absolutely. When I met you a couple of weeks ago in Sedona, I thought you are such an amazing, interesting, and knowledgeable person in this field. I couldn't help but ask you to interview. So I'm really grateful to you for taking the time to answer some questions that I think will be very interesting for my listeners. And hopefully they will come out and meet you one day. Well,
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to see them here in Sedona.
yeah. So I guess let's start with just a very broad question. But what does spirituality mean to you?
Well, spirituality is a big part of my life. It has been since I was 13. So to me, it is inseparable from just regular life. And I think it's a very important element of it that adds fulfillment. It adds just many, many layers of
Mhm.
richness to anyone's life.
That's very true. I actually think about that a lot, and I talk to a lot of my friends about this, that there's so much more than sleeping, eating, reproducing, and repeating that again every day,
Right.
right? There's so much more to that. There's so many more layers, like you said. So I know it's kind of a long story, but if you can, in short, how did spirituality find you? How did it come into your life?
Well, since I was a kid, I was into everything spiritual, but back then when I was a kid, it was more like paranormal, extraterrestrial kind of interest,
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing with kids when we would just invoke ghosts, so we would try to talk
Mm-hmm.
to ghosts. And later, actually, it got more serious when I read a spiritual book that was about our thoughts shaping our reality. And
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue about most of that stuff. So it was a turning point. It was really a pivotal moment for me. And then after that, I got hooked on all the esoteric books, everything metaphysical. I would read more books. And over time, I started receiving information. So I would spend more time meditating and I would pay more attention to my sensations and
Mm-hmm.
just the signs, making connections, like very subtle connections that before I would simply ignore.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it evolved over the years. Then moving to the States with my husband, we found a spiritual center in Brooklyn where we took a lot of trainings and our spiritual development just went a lot deeper from before. Even though logically I thought, well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I would learn more back home, but actually, Spirit had a different plan for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it went on with like sound healing and like shamanic practices, Tai
Mm-hmm.
Chi, Qigong, yoga. We
Mm.
were like sponges absorbing
Wow.
all different modalities.
Right. And then from Brooklyn, you then moved to Sedona, and
Yes.
you said you felt like it was calling you.
Yes. In 2010, we felt this calling. At some point, we just felt our chapter of New York was coming to an end. We wanted to be somewhere closer to nature, and we wanted um, just to go away from the hustle and bustle of the concrete jungle. We took a road trip. We were on the road for 3 months, exploring
Wow.
different areas. And logically, again, I was thinking maybe it would be more of a green place and like more nature, like maybe Colorado
Mhm.
or maybe somewhere in Utah, definitely somewhere in the Southwest.
Hmm.
But visiting all the beautiful places we had on our list, nothing felt quite right. Like nothing felt like this is home until we
Hmm.
came to Sedona, and it was I think it was our third visit. Yeah, third
Hmm.
visit. And it felt right. We had been to Sedona before, and we just loved the amount of trails we have here, like 300
Mm.
miles of trails
Wow.
and so much beauty to explore, plus the energy.
Yeah.
So we landed here and everything fell into place. It
Hmm.
was meant to be, and we felt this is it. So that's how we stayed in Sedona. And actually, before we came here, moving to Sedona in 2004, I had a past life recollection experience where I had glimpses of like telling me that I lived here
Wow.
probably, or something important happened in one of the past lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that guided me here. Like that's one of the reasons why we felt drawn to this area again.
Hmm.
And yeah, we
Yeah.
felt we were meant to be here.
No, that's really an interesting story. And when we were on the tour with you, I really felt that how passionate you were about the connection with Mother Earth and the Native American heritage that you can kind of feel to this day. All the plants that you were so knowledgeable about and the history of the Native Americans. And you had mentioned that on the tour, you told me that in one of your past lives, you had been a Native American, right?
Yes, I was Hopi.
Hopi, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it took me, well, I had a glimpse of that life. Like something told me that I lived here in 2004. And it took me 16 years to find another piece of that puzzle, which I
Mm-hmm.
found in 2020. So in April of 2020, we uh, just lost most of our business because there were lockdowns and people
Oh,
couldn't travel much. So
right.
all of a sudden, we had a lot of free time. And my husband suggested for us to go to explore some places that we wanted to go to, but could never find time
Mm-hmm.
for it. So I told him that there was an area that had been calling me, and I wasn't sure even if it had a name, but he knows maps really well. That's his zone of genius. So
Okay.
he was like, okay, I know what you're talking about. Let's go there. And so we went. We found a trail. We were the only ones in that beautiful area. And the trail looked like a decent sized trail. So we followed the trail until it ended. The canyon I was curious about continued, but there was no more trail. We searched
Oh,
around and there were no more trails. So the only options we had was to turn around and go back home or to go
hmm.
bushwhacking.
Wow, okay.
And we chose bushwhacking. Going back home was not an option. It didn't feel
Wow.
right. And so, usually, when it comes to that kind of adventure, bushwhacking is what my husband likes.
Hmm.
Um, and for some reason, this time I volunteered. I said, I'll try to find my way. And surprisingly, I was easily getting in between the bushes through
Mm,
all the prickly stuff as if I knew where I was going
right.
to. And at one point, we came to a little opening, and a voice in my head said, "Look down, there's something important here." So when I looked down, what I saw was a large rock. And in that moment, I had like what you call clear cognizance. Like
Hmm.
I just knew that somebody important to me in my past life
Mm-hmm.
could be buried under this rock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my first thought was my husband because I had past life regressions before, so I know we spent many lifetimes together,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't feel it was right though. A moment later, the voice said it was your mom from your past life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I knew that, looking at this rock, like I had so many images pouring in, like emotions, like it felt just like reconnecting the dots in
Yeah.
that moment, like visiting that sacred place to me.
Yeah.
And so we did a ceremony there. We spent a few hours there.
Mm.
And as it was getting dark, we just packed up our stuff and headed back home. When we came home, we realized that we forgot our sheepskin there. Our daughter was sitting on it when she was playing, making fairy houses. And so we didn't notice as it was getting dark that we left it there. So when we came back 2 days later,
Mm-hmm.
we brought our cat with us, the cat that would take hiking with us on a leash. She's a hiker. Um, and that morning she was feeling really lazy. So she was sitting on top of my backpack, kind of sideways on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And when we reached the end of the trail, I saw spirits, the tribal members, with my third eye, obviously,
Okay.
on one side, and the chief was on the other side. So when I saw them, they were like laughing. They said to me, "Out of all things, you bring a cat here? Like, what's wrong with you?" I'm like, Why? Why not?"
That's so funny.
And
Mm-hmm.
yes, and when I saw the chief smile, it was like meeting a very dear person, like whom you loved so much in one of your lifetimes. You just remember like that
Yeah.
gaze. And I asked him, wait a minute, what's the connection here? Have we met before? And he told me that he was my grandpa in that life and that he brought me to the canyon where I spent a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
growing up there. So he said that this area was like my playground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, my husband started wondering why we're not moving further. We still need to get through the prickly stuff to get our
Mm-hmm.
sheepskin. And I told him that I had a conversation with spirits. I told him what they said. And he realized, he actually remembered that the place that we visited first time in 2004, Palatki Ruins, was literally around the corner.
Hmm. Wow.
But the funny thing was that I had been to the place many
Yes.
times,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
but I thought that it was somewhere further away. I didn't think it
Wow.
was just the next canyon around the
Right.
corner, but he knows maps better than me. So
Yeah.
he's like, no, literally, it's the next canyon. So people who lived there were Hopi,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and it was a water clan of Hopi, of the Hopi tribe. So
Mm.
in that life, I was Hopi. And that also explains why I felt so drawn to be in
Exactly.
Sedona. Like this area just felt like home. And yeah, and how we chose the name for our company. I didn't connect the dots back then that Hopi have
Uh-huh.
a prophecy about it, about
Ah.
one tribe. According to their prophecy, we're transitioning from the fourth world to the fifth world when all tribes come together as one tribe of many colors.
Ah.
And when we were coming up with the name for our company,
Mm-hmm.
nothing felt better than this. Like
Mm-hmm.
we feel this is who we are. All
Yeah.
humans are one family of many
Exactly.
colors.
Oh, wow. That's really beautiful. That's a beautiful story. I wish I could say that I've had a similar experience, but I haven't. But I feel like there's still time. Maybe I will feel
Absolutely. And
Something.
even though we are born without these memories, like they're not as vivid, it's for a reason that our soul wants to have a completely unique experience because it's all about learning once you are in the physical body.
Right. And that
But
actually, yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that kind of would lead into my next question. What is the purpose of life in your
Yeah. It's
understanding?
learning. It's
Right.
learning, and we have this ability, this capacity to learn till the moment we die. Now, the reason why we don't have memories from previous lives, again, it's for having a unique experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then we do get clues. We do get these clues that you can connect the dots. So we just don't
Mm-hmm.
notice. We ignore them. Like they can
Yeah.
come in the form of smells that bring up some good feelings, and some people
Mm-hmm.
may think they're kind of strange, or like you may be drawn to a specific language to learn. It will come
Yeah.
easy to you.
That's how it happened with me with Spanish. It came so easily. I didn't understand how this could be. And then when I did have a past life regression, I think I saw myself somewhere either in Spain or I don't know, perhaps it could have been any country, I guess, that spoke Spanish, but I remember seeing myself so clearly in this beautiful long dress and this garment and standing in this garden of sorts, but I something inside of me tells me that it was somewhere in a Spanish speaking country, and in this life I speak Spanish fluently. People have told me I speak like a native, and
Yeah,
so I think,
nice.
yeah, now I am connecting the dots and it
Yeah.
makes
See,
sense.
or sometimes you're drawn to visit an area that is will
Mhm.
remind you like this is where you had a life before, or
Right.
a culture. You feel drawn to specific culture.
Hmm.
You'll be like really obsessed with like learning more and more and more about
Hmm.
a particular country. Or sometimes it can be like in dreams. We may think that it's just repeating dreams, so not really paying much attention to them, but or scenes that we don't recall from this life. But it can be memories again, like overlaying, like some glimpses from the
Yeah.
past. Sometimes people visit areas where they had never been before,
Hmm.
and they feel okay. I'm turning around the corner here, and they already know what they're gonna see.
Wow. Hmm. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
people told me that on my tours, like they
Hmm.
experienced that. And, just a lot of times people feel awkward sharing that, the
Right.
kind of experience out of fear of being ridiculed,
Of course.
or coming across as
Misunderstood.
inadequate. Right. But we all have this capacity to connect the dots if we pay attention
Hmm.
to all these things. And sometimes being drawn to a specific language may not be that connection to your past life. It can
Hmm.
also be your soul planning for the next chapter or some chapters ahead in the future where you will need this
Okay.
language.
Huh.
That could be another reason why.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. So let me ask you this. I know you have a daughter. How do
Hmm.
you teach her about spirituality? Because I have two little ones and, I discuss with them these topics, but sometimes I don't know how to present it to them.
Right. So yeah, we talk to her about this all the time. And I think about like all kids, they pretty much go through a specific phase. I think she was like around, like first time it started around 4,
Hmm.
when they start questioning this like life, and like
Yeah.
especially they're concerned about death.
Yes.
And I remember when my daughter would be like crying hysterically, I don't want you to die. I don't
Hmm.
want anyone to die around me, my loved ones. And having conversations with her about soul being eternal, I think it just gave her more peace with that. Like, and besides that, we talk about the cause and effect and how everything is interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would give her books to read about water, how our thoughts can
Hmm.
program, change the structure. Have you heard about Masaru Emoto?
Yes, actually, yes, I have.
Yeah, they actually have a really wonderful book with all these experiments for kids. We
Oh,
got it from our local library, and it was really an amazing book that not only they had experiments with water, but also water, like words to water, but also pictures to water, music to water, like
oh
all
no.
different possible ways of like just to see the structure changing or not. I think it was really beneficial for like a child, for my daughter to see it. Uh,
Okay.
and to see that, it comes from adults who research it, who study that. So then we would remind her to be mindful of her thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
just every day she meditates. We do this
Really?
regulation practice.
Oh
Yes,
wow.
because these days there's a lot of stuff that can throw you off balance, especially for kids. And I think it's really crucial to teach them to regulate their nervous system, to
Of course.
teach them how to balance yourself out through breath. And there's neurofeedback, all kinds of tools that you can use. So
Mm-hmm.
she's been using all that, and it helps that we're homeschooling. So
Yeah, of course.
we have more flexibility of what we can teach her. And then we also visit different ruins, Native American sites, and she sees us doing ceremonies. She also participates. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she likes that and connecting to crystals. Like
Hmm.
we try to weave it from different angles, but of
Uh-huh.
course, it's up to her to choose what she will take.
Sure, sure. So I can't help but ask. So my son, you know how some people are just born optimists and then others are born pessimists?
Hmm.
My son, he's 6, and he's one of the most pessimistic persons I've ever met in my life, which is
Really?
crazy because he's only 6 and he should be this joyful child. And yet, I have to remind him constantly, look at the bright side, be an optimist, stop, focusing on the negative. Is there anything you would suggest that would help him grow up to be positive?
Yeah, sure. I think I've been there as well, thinking like, oh my God, like why is my daughter is having like emotional explosions,
Mm-hmm.
coming from, that part of the world where we come from. It's like people are not as connected to their emotions. So even thinking that you had a normal childhood, a lot of times it's difficult to witness when you're a little kiddo who's supposed to be, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
happy, to be joyful, and just
Yeah.
enjoy every moment, but they can be upset. So it's difficult for us parents to witness their emotions sometimes. And it was a big lesson for me with my daughter when um, she was teaching me that. And through different trainings, I learned that it's more important to support them emotionally where they are than to teach them to be a good person, to grow up to be always happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing is that when we chase this all good vibes only,
Mm-hmm.
we'll never be able to fully feel it.
Yeah.
It will be ever elusive. So we need to, as parents, make sure that we are supporting their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you talk to him, like validating his emotional state,
Mm-hmm.
meeting him where he is, not trying to distract him, which is really typical, and want him to change like this, clicking fingers, like to be happy. Going deeper to see, yeah, I see that you're feeling a certain way, I
Yeah.
am here to support you. I'm here to help you. And you will see, you'll be surprised that he
Mm-hmm.
may share something that maybe he has been carrying, because that is really crucial. And I think it's like a really catalyst for our spiritual growth, uh,
Oh,
learning to unpack our emotions.
yeah.
So
That's
we're not avoiding any discomfort, but we're staying with it. And it's not just bad vibes, that's
hmm
a big misunderstanding. Even in spiritual community, like people run away from bad vibes, good vibes
yes.
only. It's just such a big, it causes a lot of confusion,
That's interesting.
because every emotion has a place to be.
That's true.
And the more we try to avoid them, the heavier they get. And
Yeah.
so we become very mm, vulnerable, in a sense, like we will want to avoid every potential threat that will
hmm
throw us off balance. But instead, if we learn to face these emotions, we will develop our capacity and become more resilient
hmm
to withstand any shakeups that life's gonna throw at us. And I think that is more important than being just optimistic,
Right.
because when you become resilient, being optimistic is your second nature.
hmm
But if you are vulnerable, if you don't know how to handle that, then it will be more difficult to navigate
Yeah.
in life.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. And you witnessed how I broke down and started crying on one of the energy
Yeah.
vortexes in Sedona. I had so much emotion stored away. I think that I was just kind of covering up with just focusing on the positive, and not really paying attention and exploring, why it is that I have felt anxiety and what are my
Yeah.
fears. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
you had a beautiful release. And there are so many people out there who are like you, just they don't know how to deal with that. And it's part of being human. We want just to remove it. We want
yes.
to, just shove it somewhere
Uh-huh.
in the closet, keep it
Absolutely.
away. And just to avoid it, people take all kinds of medications that have tons of side effects. A lot of
Oh, I
times, I'm not
know.
saying that, it's like one strategy for everybody, but they say that a lot of the disorders, like mental health
hmm
issues, particularly, and immune disruptors, a lot of these problems come from our inability to face emotional wounds that we had early on,
Yes.
either in childhood or earlier in life. And it's scary. It does Nobody wants to stay in this scary place,
Yeah.
facing your emotions, because a lot of times people feel like it's like opening a can of worms.
hmm
But it is not one emotion. It's
No.
like a spiral leading to like many different narratives, many stories from
hmm
their past that
Yes.
they would rather not think about or
Right.
experience. But in reality, all of those things, every emotion, every emotional wound from the past wants your awareness. It
Yes.
wants validation.
hmm
It's like the name of the game on planet Earth, validation. Everything, when you validate your loved ones, your friends, when you support
Yeah.
them emotionally, you build the strongest connection with them.
Uh,
And when it comes to emotional wounds, you don't empower them by bringing your full awareness, but you help this energy dissolve.
okay. That makes sense.
And like what we did on that rock,
Yeah.
we brought your full awareness to it, and it came out as a release.
Yes.
And how did you feel after that?
I mean, I think I kept smiling for for a long time. I just felt really light. And the next day, we also did some hiking with my husband, and
Nice.
it was really nice. I mean, I felt like I was on top of the world. It was a really nice feeling, and I'm just so happy that life brought me to that place to meet you. Just everything I really believe I was divinely guided.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, and that's how it happens. We are always guided. We just don't realize to what extent everything is interconnected.
Yeah, that's very true. And honestly, I think I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
Is you help people, obviously, in your work. How does that make you feel? How does your work impact other people's lives? Because you've met a lot of people, and I know you do all types of counseling and you help people conquer their,
Yeah.
yeah, insecurities and fears and emotions. How does it make you feel?
Well, it makes me really feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
It brings me so much joy, and I feel this is my soul's purpose.
Okay.
So it's really important for me. Since I was a kid, I knew that I came here to help people. I just didn't know how. I
Right.
didn't know in what ways.
Hmm.
And I had to learn it to allow to be guided by the divine. And um, it's like you create different parts of the puzzle, and you may be interested in one thing and you study it, and then your interest may shift a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
you start working on another piece of the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
investing a lot of your time and energy studying like maybe different modalities. And at some point there could be confusion, which I had for sure. I
Okay.
didn't know like why I was studying all this, all that. But
Mm-hmm.
then at one point later, I had a moment when everything made sense. And I was like, yeah, this is
Mm-hmm.
why I was interested, because those are all of the different aspects of work that I'm supposed to do here on this planet in this lifetime. So as a guide, helping people, that means I need to constantly refine myself
Uh-huh.
as a guide. Like, I don't believe there's a destination, like I have
Sure.
arrived. I have all figured it all out. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm human more than anything. So I have my lessons. So
Yep.
I have to keep learning, keep refining myself, and keep adding more tools to my practice. And I'm just excited to share it with the
Yeah.
world.
Exactly.
I think our world really needs more healing and um, more ways to process emotions, because when we do address our unprocessed emotions and release that energy, it is a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
We gain like this boost of energy that will power us forward and will help us live more fulfilling lives, happier
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a great note, I think, to end this interview on. There's a lot to think about. I'm going to leave in the Q&A section, I'm going to leave, and in the description, some notes about your tour operation that you do, One Tribe Tours, and then I will leave also some links to the books that you mentioned so people can, you know, find out a little bit more
Thank
on
you.
this topic. Yeah.
And One
Yeah.
Tribe Counseling, yeah, I'll send you a link also on
Okay.
to my Instagram. Thank you so much.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully, maybe we will see each other again.
Absolutely. When
Yeah,
spirit guides us, absolutely at the right time, at the right place.
exactly. Thank you, Irina.
Thank you. Blessings, Juliana. Bye.
Yeah, bye. I'd like to close today's episode by reading to you the mission statement of One Tribe Tours. These words were very inspiring to me, and I hope that you also find them inspirational. We are all one tribe of many colors. We might be all very different in so many ways, yet we're all in this together. We're all a part of this one earth, in the same way as all animals and plants are. All life is sacred. Love is beyond borders, beyond limitations, beyond any differences. We're all one. We're all interconnected. We're all a part of this universe. We're all a part of this creation. We are this creation. We're all divine beings, slowly awakening to our unlimited potential.